Has the Olympics lost its sporting spirit? Welcome to Mark and Pete. Listen up, here's a thought.
The Olympic Games has sporting queens and kings, where someone flings and springs and clings. But after watching so many active things, your eyes go baggy with lots of rings. Yes, well, the Olympic Games in Paris is underway, and many people will have seen the ceremonies, and before, of course, the sporting activities are underway. But whilst that many of the athletes are getting back to what they really do best, unfortunately, many of the people around the world have been offended by some of the opening ceremonies activities.
Yes.
So, for example, the organisers have said they are sorry for the scenes in the Friday opening ceremony because a banquet sequence featured drag artists in what was really an offence to Christian groups who felt that it parodied Leonardo da Vinci's painting The Last Supper. Now, this is the famous 15th century work that depicts a key biblical scene. In fact, the Catholic Church in France, ironically, was among many of the critics and said that the ceremony featured scenes of derision and mockery and Christianity. Well, yes, is that really true? In fact, it's gone even further. Some big American telecoms companies have even threatened to pull their advertising across the entire Olympic Games. Clergyman Pete, I ask you, do you think now that the Olympic Games have lost its true spirit, and is it fit for purpose anymore?
Well, yes, it does seem to have lost track, doesn't it? I mean, it's being used as a sort of political tool for many years. You can think of lots of stunts, people pulling out of the games to make a particular political point and that sort of thing. But coming to more recent times, when the Olympics was in Britain, the opening ceremony similarly had lots of celebrations, supposedly of Britain, but mainly focused on the religion of the time, which was the NHS, rather than Christianity, which was not mentioned, despite the fact that Christianity is formative. It's part of how Britain developed. Christian faith is essential if you do anything British or about the development of Britain. But moving on from that, you now have in France, yes, it being sidelined in the same way, but where it is mentioned, it's ridiculed. So things are moving in that direction, and that's so unnecessary. It's you can make those points. You cannot like Christianity, but the Olympic ceremony isn't really the place for it, is it? It's the similar religious arguments are similar to using it for political arguments. So yes, it's the opening ceremony has certainly lost that. The games themselves, I think they have lost something. I mean, just speaking from my personal point of view, I don't watch it anymore. I used to watch it, and I think it is this. I think it's the professionalization, is that a word, of it? I mean, the athletics being the main part of the Olympics, really. Because of the massive sponsorship deals and people can become very wealthy through it, it just has a different feeling to it. When it was amateur, people just having a go, see who was best. It had what I would think of as the Olympic spirit.
Yes, I think the commercialization of many other sports has perhaps overshadowed the original meaning. So going back to the whole principle of this, that the Olympic Games was about physical prowess, the idea of competition, and the fact that an individual as well as teams could come together, develop, and there was naturally something where there was always going to be a loser and there was always going to be a winner. But the point being is it was based primarily on an amateur status. Now, here's my thought as well, is that unfortunately there are some question marks over some of the actual sports that have got in. So as we've seen in very recent times, that golf has got in, tennis has got in, rugby's got in. But hold on, whatever happened to poetry? Yes, folks.
Yes.
Once upon a time, yes, I know that many people were thinking, sorry, what did you say? Oh, yes, poetry had become an official part of the first of the modern Olympic Games, but that was only up until 1948. Well, you see, the thing here is that, okay, maybe that's not so much maybe a physical agility, it's more mental agility. But here's the thought: whatever happened to tug of war,
Yeah.
croquet? Now, you see, the thing here is I would even go as far as to say, well, some sports have blossomed in recent times. Where is snooker? Where do you stop? So, should it be that, we go back to the old sort of Athens approach of it's only based around certain types of sports? Should it be scaled back? Because I also have some thoughts on how they could actually bring the Olympic Games to a true global community rather than it just be within one particular country.
Yeah.
Shall I tell you? Because I think
Yeah.
that this is my thought here is, okay, so here we are, 2024, Paris. Well done. Yes, I'm sure that at the end of it, we'll all be exhausted with rings under our eyes, looking at all of the different sports. But the thing here is that, if you're in Australia, it's a long way to go to Paris. If you're in Los Angeles, which was where it's going to be in the next 4 years, still a long way to get there to Paris. Why not have it as a truly amateur status?
Yeah.
So cut out the commerce. Go and have an Olympic Games where sports, all of the different sports, are assigned to different countries. So, for example, you could have the sailing in Australia. You could maybe have some of the rugby in the UK. Maybe you could have the swimming in Germany, and so on. So what you're doing is that you host it, so you still have a central area where all the track and field can still happen. But all the other events are actually dispersed around the world. So it becomes a true global sport and a united Olympics. It would also mean that people could actually get to see something as opposed to having to travel all the way around the world to get to one particular venue. And then what you do is the next one, you swap it. So instead of Australia having the sailing, it may be South Africa has the sailing and, with the UK and so on. And that's the way you do it. Now, what are your thoughts about trying to make it a little bit more inclusive?
I can say that's an innovative approach, and going to not having it in one place. I can see there's something in that. I think that the main thing is one thing that you did mention, which was making it amateur, and I think that that's not going to happen.
No.
What I think is though that there are in athletics independent clubs springing up across England, and where I am, there's an independent club next to the traditional athletics club. Now, clubs have always existed alongside county athletics as well,
yes.
And the traditional clubs and the county athletics are feeling rather tired, rather outmoded.
Yeah.
It is similar actually to church, the old ways of doing church, where you all gather together in an old musty building and sing hymns. Seems outmoded these days, and there are other ways of doing it involving food, voluntary. You have worship, but people can opt in and out, and there's different ways of doing things. No doubt it will go back to the traditional way eventually. It'll work its way back there, and I think that the Olympics could be the same. It could be replaced by something. These independent clubs springing up, which have more of the original Olympic spirit of just trying to run faster and jump higher and all this sort of thing, and thus bringing people together, because it doesn't matter what you believe or where you come from, it's just how you perform. And I think that this will spring up. Because there's such an enthusiasm for athletics springing up with the innovative sort of different races done by companies such as Red Bull and Nike, who sponsor such events, of course, to sell their products, but it fosters new engagement with people in athletics. So I could see something developing in the same way to replace the Olympics. That's what I would say, well, and I hope that happens. Of course, what it is exactly, I can't tell, because if I could just tell you what it is, it wouldn't have grown up organically. But something that springs up and grows up around the world, just try and encourage it, is what I would say. Encourage these new athletic forms. I mean, when the Olympics first started, there were all sorts of weird things in there that you mentioned. Poetry. Well, not that poetry is weird necessarily, but something we wouldn't associate with the Olympics. I understand that there was live pigeon shooting in the 1900
Oh, there you go.
Paris Olympics. Well, the pigeons weren't alive for very long, but you get the
No.
idea. But the new sorts of competition as well could spring up. There were things that people widely participate in that aren't in the Olympics, and it takes too long to get them in there. Well,
Yeah.
something new springing up, I think, is the way forward. I think the Olympics is tired and old
Well,
and on
here's
its
the other
way
thing.
out.
I mean, one of the reasons for trying to make it a little bit more global with all the different events is actually one of the biggest concerns, which is the common issue is budget overruns. So
Yeah.
as we've seen, that many governments have taken this on, and it's really hindered their government coffers. Now, up until fairly recently, people have got a little bit more wise to it through the commercial side. And I know, ironically, that's countering what we said. But the fact is that people have used sponsorship to balance the books. So, ironically, the Tokyo Olympics was reported to be apparently 13 billion US dollars. Now, they
Oh,
did manage to balance the revenues and expenditures because of, obviously, not just through the turnstiles of the events, but obviously through sponsorship and many other different things like that. But okay, that's fair enough. But it does put enormous strain on people's budgets. So whereas if you balanced it out, it's more likely it would be affordable, more manageable. And I think that that's something, again, where, we're in a world where to televise an event is very easy to bring together into one TV show. So
yeah.
I'm less concerned about that side of it. But here's another one, which I know is a quirky one, but I have to say it because I've watched the Olympic Games over the years, and I've always been particularly keen on watching those people who push the boundaries of physical, human endeavors, whether they are in the swimming pool, whether they're in the boat, or whether they're on a track. And winning not just a gold medal is a great thing, but pushing the boundaries to win a new time, to get a world record. So here's another final suggestion from me. I think we mentioned this before offline, but here's my thought, just to sort of make it a little bit more interesting as an incentive. So if you won a particular event like the 100 meters, you'd get clearly the gold medal. But if you actually won the world record, why not get a platinum medal? Meaning
Oh,
that
yes.
essentially the idea being is that platinum medal will show is that not only did you win the event, you gained something that was a human first. Now,
Yes.
what that does is it just incentivizes it. It makes it more exciting. And I think it would not only be a good thing for the athletes, I think it would be good for those who go and watch the events themselves. Just a thought.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, and going forward, then watch out, gentle listener, for what happens. I suggested something could grow up to replace it, and there are possible contenders if they sort of merge together. There's the World Games. That that's every 4 years, like the Olympics. I think. I mean, you mentioned tug of war. I believe that has the tug of war in it. So more traditional than the Olympics. There's X Games, which is extreme sports, which are not featured in the Olympics. So, and yet they are very, very popular. That's the sort of thing that I was imagining could grow up. These new extreme sports, and parkour, etc., growing up at a local level, and then of course there's gaming, computer
yes.
type games,
Yes.
which is a huge thing, and yet it's not featured. So these things could grow up, and if they join together, could be bigger than the Olympics. And they're already got the three I mentioned. They're already, in terms of interest, competing with the Olympics. So maybe it is possible, or maybe there's something I've missed out. and maybe one of Mark's ideas that he's put forward here sparks your interest, just let us know. Get in touch with the show. What do you think? Go to markandpete.com and you can leave a comment on this or any episode. So I think that's it for this week, but thanks very much for listening. Goodbye from Mark and myself, and catch you next time.